David Fahrenthold is a reporter for the Washington Post who's done a lot of reporting extensively on Donald Trump's veterans donations and some regarding Trump University as well. David, we appreciate the time today. These new polls now have Trump and Clinton separated by just 4 points. Yesterday, Republican pollster and CBS News contributor Frank Luntz, meanwhile, said that Donald Trump has a shot at winning this thing. He actually believes that after saying that 4 weeks ago he believed none of it. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's really early to make that sort of judgment precisely because the Democratic race is unsettled. You're seeing Hillary Clinton still under a lot of attack from Bernie Sanders, and that'll continue at least until next Tuesday when the last primaries happen. I think after that, it'll be interesting to see what Bernie Sanders does. If he leads his people sort of into the Democratic fold, which is probably his best hope to have any impact on politics in the long run, then you'll see Clinton's numbers probably go up. For Trump, I think he's benefited from a bump as he's consolidated the Republican vote, but now we're seeing a lot of media scrutiny on him that he finds very uncomfortable, and so it may be hard to sort of sustain that level of support for him over the next few months. We
did see examples of that scrutiny yesterday play out in a very contentious press conference that he held at Trump Tower after months of calls for Trump to report just where he had sent the funds. Initially, that he said over $6 million have been raised for veterans groups. We now know that it was short of that total. We also know that he did finally donate $1 million of his own money, he says, just last week. What did you make first, then, of Trump's final disclosures on this topic yesterday?
Well, look, he raised this money and he truly gave it away. And so the people that got this money really benefited from it. The interesting thing I thought was that how little he was able to focus on that, which is good news for the groups and good news for him. He was so unhappy that people had pressed him to explain what he'd done with this money, which again, he raised in public and took an enormous amount of public credit for raising. He was so unhappy that he had to explain where the money had gone that he couldn't even focus on giving the money away. Instead, he had to complain the whole time about the scrutiny he'd gotten from the media and the bad treatment he'd gotten from the media. So to me, that was an interesting look into his personality. This was a test of competence. Could he take in the money and give it away? And also temperament. Could he handle what, in presidential terms, is a very small amount of scrutiny on a very simple task? And I think there were doubts raised in both areas.
He mentioned repeatedly yesterday that the disclosure took so long in part because his campaign had to vet the charities in question. In a recent article, however, you say that that vetting could have been done with an easy Google search.
Well, the interesting thing about that is, yes, Trump said it took 4 months to give out the remainder of these gifts because he was vetting the groups. But we found yesterday that one of the groups he gave $75,000 to was something called the Foundation for American Veterans. It has an F rating from the group Charity Watch. It's the subject of an alert from the Better Business Bureau for what they call deceptive and harassing practices trying to raise donations. And if you just Google that, Foundation for American Veterans, if Trump's vetting was only that, a Google search, the first 4 results that show up on that Google page, 3 of them are sites warning about problems with this group. So if Trump even just put it into Google, he would have found out that there were questions about this group. I can't tell if he did and just ignored those questions or if he didn't even do that.
Well, there are a lot of questions, meanwhile, about the donors here, and it certainly there seem to be some directly conflicting reports from Trump and his own campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, who said actually on our air that some donors had backed out late, which is why the final total fell short of the $6 million in question. Although Donald Trump then said that that wasn't true at all, just some were late. Do we know exactly, do we now know exactly which take is true?
Well, I think it's interesting. Corey Lewandowski told me that a couple of weeks ago, told me the same thing, that some of the donors had not come in. And at that point, he said they'd only raised $4.5 million. It turns out the only donor who had not made good on his promise at that point, the only donor we know about at least, was Donald Trump himself. At that point, when there only $4.5 million had been raised, it was because Donald Trump's $1 million personal gift was missing. When Trump made good on that after we put some pressure on him, now it goes up to 5.5, 5.6. I've looked at all the donors that Trump mentioned on stage back in the night of the fundraiser, and all of them but one, who gave only about $50,000, have confirmed to me that they did give. So I can't find any evidence that a big donor hadn't made good on the promise. At the time Corey Lewandowski said that, the only donor who hadn't made good on his promise was Trump.
Interestingly, this comes against now the ongoing questions into Trump University. I know you've reported on this as well. Recently unsealed documents now prove that employees gave detailed instructions as to how to entice people now to enroll in the real estate seminars in question. If this taken as a whole, as a collective, with regard especially to the historic unfavorables that Donald Trump faces now as a candidate, nothing has stuck with him so far, but will he begin to pay a price here?
Well, I think you see a lot of people saying, well, nothing sticks with Donald Trump, nothing matters. You can't, his supporters don't care what they read. And I think that's not true at all. I think what's happened with this veterans donation has proven that people are listening, people are reading. And I think the historic unfavorables you're seeing with Trump proves that people have absorbed some information they don't like about Trump. And so this Trump University reporting, I think it will continue. We've got a lot of new documents that have come out. It does show that Trump participated in this event, in this effort that was basically aimed at getting people to spend money they shouldn't spend, to entice people to spend money that they really couldn't afford to lose on real estate seminars that were not going to provide them with a lot of benefit, especially when they were doing it right at the beginning of the housing crisis. So I think the idea that this doesn't matter or nothing will affect Trump, I think that's wrong. I think it's always been wrong, and I think it will be continually wrong. It'll be proven wrong in the next few months as we go into the general election and more scrutiny is focused on Trump himself.
And I know that's reporting you're doing important stuff here. David Fahrenthold of the Washington Post. We appreciate the time today.
Thank you.